The women that are in the 50s now to 60s, when they were growing up, when they were at your age, they were not putting on pants. It was unheard of. And in that same period, it was unheard of for a woman to drink, to be seen in public drinking alcohol. It was totally unheard of. Then you can see the socialization, the group socialization and development is so the right or wrong of that age and the right or wrong, nothing has changed other than perceived development or whatever social grouping or religion or culture has progressed or adoption of foreign cultures which we have no clue whether they are taking. I mean, how do you how do you all of a sudden leave your ways of doing things and adopt a next door neighbor's way of doing things and tell yourself that your next door neighbor is doing things better than you? Is the stupid approach that Africans and especially Africans at the global south has blindly adopted Western cultures and threw away their cultures. I mean, how does a man come to your house and say you everything that you are doing is wrong and his ways of doing things is right? That's what has caught up with the Western culture. Not only that, the West being that even the culture we are trying to copy is not the true culture that the Western world. We are trying to copy movie culture, which is movies not the real thing that is happening in Western society. But because we haven't been Europe, we are copying movies as some kind of the so to influence one as a group that you need to subjugate as another group because this whole world uh, man or society has survived out of conquering other people's societies and in the current world of development. Are you there?
Yes, sir, we are here.
In the current world of development, believe it or not, if you want to take over any society and influence it rightly or wrongly, you start with women and children because they're easily manipulated into anything. And with the Western culture, they even put that on TV, and that's the end of any influence about men of that society. Anyway, without I have a lot of opinions about Western culture into African culture. Let's not start an argument there. Or just starting to say that because we had wanted to stop unending arguments about what is right or wrong, what is ethically right or wrong. So the accountancy profession adopted this 6 or 5 or 6 ethics that we thought at least these ones we have a common understanding about the right or wrong. The expectation over and above you complying with the accounting standards and international standards on auditing, the expectation at a personal level is ensure that you have integrity as an accountant. Be a practicing CPA or an audit, you have an integrity. You have integrity. You are an honest person and a professional person in business relationships. You tell what it is without diluting, without extending, without exploiting those who are not. Who are no. It is your integrity. You must be seen to be a person who is going to give an objective assessment of the. You have. You must be seen as a person with integrity, both in appearance and in fact. You must appear to be honest. And if you, how do you appear to be honest? Is to stick to people who appear to be, who have integrity. So you cannot relate with people who have no integrity and expect to be treated with to be expected to have integrity yourself. So that is why accountants generally would, you cannot associate with drug dealers or people of low integrity, perceived to have low integrity in society, because your appearance alone, even if you have integrity in your own right, but your appearance is that you may not act professionally in all relationships and conduct. Integrity is the one first ethic, first principle that is expected of you. You are expected to be objective. This we enforce as the accountancy profession. And if you are found not to have integrity, because we have a register of paid up members, if you are caught up in a relationship that compromised we found you lacked integrity, we are going to remove you from the register of practicing accountants. So you cannot practice accounts, prepare accounts, or audit because you lack integrity. You must be objective. Put yourself, whether in fact or in appearance, that you are free of conflict. You cannot be influenced by other people to override the principles that have been put before you. Give an objective assessment of the situation. Normally, the reason why in the early 2000s, why issues of governance, corporate governance became so topical, was the threat that we encountered as a profession after the collapse of the big firms, the Enrons and all sorts of things, where accountants were found to lack integrity and they were not objective. They were conflicted. They were paid money under the table and they gave opinions that were not. A company will give a clean audit, an unmodified audit, saying that the financial statements are free of errors and they give a true and fair view. And 2 months after the audit, the whole company collapses. They could have not, the systems that we do to collect evidence. At first, we thought the systems that we use to collect evidence were compromised. So when we reviewed the audit, we found that accountants lacked objectivity. They were conflicted, they were paid under the tables, and due to objectivity should be everything that you put before that, not only for your own sake, for the sake of the profession. So if you are caught to have acted in a conflicted situation, we are going to strike you out from the register of auditors and accountants in Botswana. The third thing that you owe the profession is professional competence. The expectation by society is that you should know. You should know your standards like the back of your hand. You should know your auditing standards like the back, your IFRS like the back of your hand, because people are professional competence, and you must continuously put yourself in a position where you are up to date with professional standards and all the standards that relate to it, because you owe people duty of care. The people are going to rely on what you say with your mouth. And if you are not competent to give a position about whether the things are correct or are wrong, you will be putting people at risk with your opinion. So it is critical that you cannot afford to be lazy as an accountant, because you need to know all the standards as they get revised every year. You need to keep yourself up to date with all the standards. That's why accountants are literally very boring people, because they have to spend nights studying the new changes in the standards, auditing standards or accountancy, IFRS, to see how they are going to implement them. The other thing is confidentiality. Any information that you got as a result of your work or your relationship with other people, because people have opened up to you and told you their secrets in terms of how they are conducting their business, because the majority of the businesses anyway, they are privately owned. You have no duty in disclosing that information to third parties, whether you need to express your opinion, and you cannot disclose that, especially if you are disclosing that to get favors, personal favors. So confidentiality is paramount. You have to be objective. You have to tell the person who has engaged you exactly what you found out in the accounts. And for you to have the skill to find out, you need to be professionally competent. And you need to be professionally competent because you owe people a common law duty of care. If you are going to place yourself as a person of knowledge, It is worth it. It is not wrong for people to trust you. If you are going to place yourself as a competent accountant in front of society, it's not wrong for the society to expect you to know, because you are placing of yourself as a person of knowledge. And it is not an unreasonable expectation for people to trust what you said. When you open your mouth to say something is right or wrong, because of the technical nature of the opinions that you are giving, it is not wrong for people who are not in the accountancy profession to believe you. And therefore, you owe them a duty of care. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
So, and after they show you how they have been trading, you also owe them confidentiality. You cannot be telling people about the secrets or taking advantage of the secrets that you were given by the company in the course of you trying to get an opinion. Try to get a sample to express an opinion. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is also confidentiality is more than critical. Professional behavior. Professional behavior means not means to comply with. You have to act professional, to comply with the rules and regulations, the laws, the relevant laws of the country, and avoid any actions that you put yourself and the accountancy profession at disrepute. It's very rare to find accountants that are putting the profession at disrepute, because accountancy profession is heavily regulated. Just like the legal profession, but with the legal profession, because these guys also they can argue back, and they can argue back. They tend to be more scandalous than accountants, because they can talk back, because they also know the law. With accountants, we have managed to get most accountants to behave properly in this country. I'm saying we have managed, because I sit in the board that is responsible for the ethical conduct of accountants, and we have managed to do. If my memory served me well, so far 99% of accountants who have brought before the disciplinary process had to mend their ways. But we have a case of, I think one case, if I'm right, of an auditor who has fled the country and left for Europe after we charged them with bad behavior within the profession. That after we charged him with a bad audit work, not properly conducting evidence, and expressing an opinion on what we consider to be shoddy work. And that guy is a wanted man. He's run out of the country, and we know he's not coming back, because he was just on some work permit. But the fact of the matter is that, at least in terms of implementing the rules, we do that. And finally, we must, as an accountant, we must take responsibility for our actions. We must be responsible, take responsibility, not delegate responsibility. We must, even when work is delegated, when we messed up, we must take responsibility and ensure that we correct. So generally, ladies and gentlemen, over and above everything that I've said, as an accountancy student, there's this, because you are going to have to be admitted as a member of a professional body before you become an auditor or an accountant. You need to be admitted by BICA, admitted by ACCA, or by BICA, or by CIMA, or whatever, before you become a professional accountant. all of them are going to demand this, that you abide by this ethical, the code of ethics, which requires you to demand. Any infringement of these will disqualify you from acting as practicing as an accountant in Botswana. Any infringement of these codes of ethics will disqualify you from. So you are joining a profession that is heavily regulated. Have you heard of many accountants that were caught up in a fraud case? Do you have a lot of them that you know? Have you heard of anyone actually, or you don't know accountants? Feedback. Students, are you there?
Yes, sir. We haven't heard of anyone.
Yes, because it takes you a minimum of 3 years to be a chartered accountant. Then another few years to be admitted as an associate or professional member of the profession. And with that in place, is not, most accountants don't want to work so hard. In any case, accountants are level-headed, above average persons, and it doesn't, they don't want to work so hard for them to have to lose their membership, because once you lose your membership, if you might have heard that we at the beginning of this year the BICAS suspended over 400 accountants in Botswana. They were told not to touch any books of accounts, and any company that were found to be employing them was to be they were to take action against that company. But you may imagine, you can imagine that those accountants were being penalized for not submitting returns. That means where they did not pay. Some of them did not pay this annual subscription. Some of them have not shown evidence that they're in continuous development. So that is why it is heavily regulated in Botswana. We don't want to go the Enron route. We don't want cheap accounts that are being produced. So if we find that your books are not balancing, the trial balance is not balancing, we ask BICA to take action against you, because then that means it's not an issue of because you are a qualified account, is an issue of laziness that is creeping into you. So, and you are going to put a lot of people at risk by giving an opinion that is not appropriate, which will put a lot of investors at risk. You cannot present yourself as a person of repute and professional competence, and you don't do that. If you are going to say I'm an accountant and I'm going to practice for the public, you must be that, and you can't say I'm an accountant in the pubs and you produce a shabby job in the office. We will take action against you. The next slide, we are just trying to highlight areas that normally are problematic to accountants in practice. These are areas where those ethical principles are normally compromised when accountants are presented with the following. These are problematic areas. Appointments. Appointments are normally a little bit of a challenge, especially where the appointment is controversial. It's a big paying appointment that you are going to get a lot of fees, be an auditor or be a chartered account. And you have an element you don't know, you don't know, and you are a small firm. All of a sudden, like any other operating firms, they need revenue, and they get the revenue from this appointment. Unfortunately, in the accounting profession, you need to first establish whether it's legal to audit such a firm. First, the legality of it in terms of whether the business that is you are auditing is legal, is a legally operating business. We are not going to accept that you will be appointed an accountant or an auditor for a drug smuggling business. That already brings a lot of issues into question. So the legality of that, of the laws of the land, are very important. That is the nature of the business. If you found to to have prepared or audited a firm that we will expect you to have taken action against a client, or you actually need to withdraw the appointment. You cannot audit the drug smuggle illegal businesses. That's the first line of defense by government, is that we tell accountants that as and when you get appointed around B to prepare the accounts, or B to be an auditor to those firms, legal operations only. If you are the first or the next person to be appointed, if you are appointed after the next accountant, you must find reasons why the previous accountant left the job, and you look at the size of the fee, whether there's a, if you are normally for people who are doing shoddy businesses, you can be appointed to be an auditor or an accountant of a firm, which on average, it has to pay you 100,000 a year for in that work, or whatever, or 200,000 a year for that work. If all of a sudden that firm that is not supposed to pay you 100,000 or 150,000 per year, as the workload would suggest, and all of a sudden we see that it's paying you 5 million in fees per year, then there is a problem. That means the fee is threatening your independence. So the first line of the is be careful about appointments, because the appointments are the things that are going to compromise your ethics, your conduct. And if they compromise your conduct and you get compromised, the profession is going to kick you out. You are bound to be influenced by the size of the fee, especially companies that are money laundering, selling illegal cigarettes, washing money laundering through drug traffickers. They use businesses to clean the money, and the most common businesses they use for cleaning is nightclubs, because nightclubs have a lot of cash. All drug smugglers normally have nightclubs. All drug normally have fuel stations, because there's a lot of cash being paid there. And you can see even the nature of the business. If you find a small restaurant selling seswa in the middle of Game City, in an office space, seswa and porridge and rice, in an office space that is 400 pula per square meter, it doesn't matter how many volumes of plates they can. If it's 400 pula per square, you need high value products to be sold in the middle of Game City. And I can tell you, just by looking at the nature of the business and its location, and tell you that would not have come as an ordinary business opinion, a business decision, other than some kind of a handout for money laundering. Those small businesses that are selling suswa in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a high-end mall, instead of a franchise that is because if you are going to sell a plate for 30 pula, it doesn't matter how long the queue is. You cannot make enough volumes to pay the rentals for that place at a Game City, next to Game City, because most of even the big shops are struggling. So by just looking at the nature of the business, I can tell you are money laundering even before. And such small business, normally you see them with high deposits and low volume. You see all of a sudden they will be depositing 30,000 pula cash a month as sales for food with a shop that has only 3 people inside. I'm told even drug smugglers do the same. They open up a small saloon and pretend that they are selling T-shirts and 2 pairs of shoes, and they use that as a cover-up for. It is the job of the accountant, if they are appointed, to remove all those things, these people from the business profession. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Have you seen that happening? Hello? If you are scared, you don't have to mention names, though. Have you seen something that looks like is not a good business? but is in the
Yes, sir.
is start wondering as an ordinary person whether this cannot be true. If it's too good to be true, then it's not true. Second opinion.
It is, say it is.
Yes, yes, yes. So you are too scared to talk. Anyway, that's fine. The second thing that is likely to compromise you is the second opinions. Always be put on notice when one accountant has produced a report, and all of a sudden you are asked to bring another opinion about what happened on the same matter. This generally sometimes is just an accountant who was trying to be ethical in producing a report, and all of a sudden the customer wants a report that says something different, and you must be put on notice. Second opinions are mostly problematic. A lot of accountants and auditors hate being asked to contradict others, and it's not normally not allowed to do that. It's unprofessional. If a customer looks for a second opinion, you must engage with the previous accountant. What really happened? Why would this customer want a second opinion on that? In a few occasions, you might have an accountant who was shoddy in the preparation of the accounts or in the auditing. But normally their profession takes care of that because of the reviews that the profession does. The reviews of the accountants or the auditors' work normally takes care of the shoddy job that accountant. So second opinions is a no-no. It's a generally no-no in society. You can't have an accountant doing something and another accountant contradicting that. Remuneration. Generally, in principle, you'll be caught in between a hard surface and a stone when it comes to remuneration. The general tendency, greed, and pressures of life are that you would charge as much as you can without exposing yourself to being less independent. The general tendency is that the profession even checks whether the fees that you have charged are generally in line with the fees of the size of the turnover of the person that you are auditing or you are preparing accounts for. This is to safeguard from the general pressures of life that you may feel confident to overcharge because you see a lot of profits in the business, and or you have some other pressures are coming to you. But if you overcharge, you are going to have a problem of it is going to threaten your independence. So remuneration is one area that in practice that presents as a tricky area when it comes to sticking to the ethic to the general code ethics as an accountant. Generally, accountants are not allowed to market themselves. You have never seen an advert that says Ernst & Young, we do what, and we are not allowed to do negative comments about other professions. So accountants just state their services without in a cold way, without saying other people are. So you are not allowed to. Although in other professions, I see restaurants, they normally their adverts, they pass a remark about other competing brands. If you have noticed that, have you noticed the restaurants about Nando's when they speak about what they just say something that discourages you from eating beef? The beef guys, when they speak, they put up an advert, they say some remark. If you read between the lines, they will make reference to. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
Yes, if you look at give that attention and see how steers put their billboards and see how they in a way refer to chicken and leg in or to Nando's, and the Nando's also, when they speak, they put their billboards, they make some loaded statements about that, what TS does and all sorts of things. Accountants always get challenged around issues of independence. It's a good idea. It's always a problem. You are a professional accountant. You audit a big company, Sefalana, or Choppies or Bollocks or CSLs, and they say they have a big. They're giving all their vendors, all their suppliers presents because of their 40th anniversary, and they buy you a motorbike or a big gift or whatever, and whatever. Generally, the general rule is that you do not accept gifts from clients. But it's a big challenge. I mean, you are broke as an accountant, and people are telling you that there's a jazz festival in Cape Town, and all our suppliers, including accountants, have been invited. We are inviting you to a flight in flight in free tickets and flight and accommodation. But that alone, once you have been subjected to that, although you may later come and produce independent accounts, you may have an independent of mind, but the appearance would have been bad for the profession. So it's a no-no in terms of you have seen rumors about board members who were sponsored to go and watch some jazz, and they're now in trouble because of issues of appearance. Although they could have acted independent in their mind, but the appearance appeared a little bit compromised, and they get sued for appearances, not the reality, because you must not look compromised. Not only should you be compromised inside your mind, but you must avoid looking compromised. So at independence, the relatives with the client, husband, boyfriends, any person that you closely relate with on the other side of the counter should be declared, and the senior partner must assess whether that your relationships on the other side of the counter does not compromise your independence. It is that is what remember we said every year the management must make sure that there's an independent survey to see that within the clientele pool that we have, do we have all our people clean in terms of conflict of interest, and relatives sometimes they don't give you, they buy a bike to your children or your student, your son who's at UB, and they do all kinds of things that will compromise, especially if you are dealing with appointments that have no integrity. They are going to try to slowly creep into your area until you are not independent in expressing an opinion about whether the accounts give a true and fair view of what happened, which will be relied on by third parties who will be injured if you did not do the right job. So let's stop here, ladies and gentlemen, and see if we cannot progress and finish this part. Next on Wednesday, we will start on we'll finish this, a few slides are left. Then we'll start on the framework, what controls accountants around in the Companies Act. We'll run through those slides, then we probably conclude with what controls accountants that is found in the Accountants Act. And then we close there and we move to more detail. You'll find that the first part of this auditing is just to discuss the framework, how to collect evidence. When we come to 310, then we become even more serious about how the whole process is undertaken. But this is fundamental that you understand the framework, the rocks that the profession is laid on. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. See you on Wednesday.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.